All right. Hey, everyone. This is Seth Klebe. I'm the host of Watch the Tech, and I have my friend and fellow Atlanta Watch Society member here with me, John Shea. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. This is actually really cool because I've never had someone from our watch club on the podcast. So I've been like dying to find someone who like works in tech, collects watches. And then I heard your name. And I think there's only one other of us in, our massive group, maybe two. And
Yeah.
so I'm so glad I was able to pin you down. But what we were just talking about before we hit record is John spotted the watch that I'm wearing for this episode, which is my AP Royal Oak Offshore Music Edition. And I was just telling him that most people don't know this, but for those who have watched every episode, I've worn a different watch. And so what I've done is I actually started with my very first episode with the first watch that I ever bought, which was my Omega Globemaster, all the way through today, which is the 11th episode that I've recorded up to this point. And this is my most recent watch purchase. I actually have nothing after this one. So I don't know what I'm going to do for episode 12. I'm not buying another watch, though. It's definitely not going to be that. Definitely not.
Yep.
Never,
Buying
John,
another
you're
watch.
looking at
Never.
me like
Not gonna happen.
I'm lying. No, I actually made myself a promise because I'm joining a new company. And the promise that I made to myself is I'm not getting another watch until either they go public or they get acquired. So that could be a long time. That could be a short time. And you know what? I'm fine just living in the fantasy world of lots of window shopping online until whenever that moment comes.
Right. Well, we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I hope I keep my word. I really do.
I promised myself late last year that my next watch was going to be a Daytona and I wasn't going to buy any more watches until then. And since then, I've bought a Grand Seiko, two Omegas, a Patek, a Tudor, and probably something I'm forgetting.
And that, my dear listeners, is how accountability in the watch world works. It doesn't exist at all. That's amazing. Well, I definitely fully want to look through some of those recent purchases. Is it the Patek that we kind of have a twin version of?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
I believe yours is one model number after mine. Watch collecting groups are like AA if we all got together and encouraged each other to drink. And it has about the result you'd expect.
I think that's so true, especially like we have no dog in the fight, but we just love it when our friends get watches. We love it when people who have no interest in watches start to develop one. We're just rooting for it. We're rooting for the industry.
And we get to vicariously enjoy their enthusiasm and their pleasure, and sometimes literally enjoy it because we get to wear their watches, but we don't experience any of the financial pain from their purchase. So it's a win-win.
It really is. It really is. Well, let me tell everyone who's listening a little bit about you and why you're on the show ultimately is Watch the Tech. So you've had a really long engineering career dating back before actually Rodstad, but that's where I wanted to start. So you had a number of different engineering roles at Rodstad. You were an individual contributor. You were also a manager of a team. Then you took a detour on the Candyland map to being an entrepreneur, and you had your own company for a number of years, and then found your way over to Google, one of my favorite companies, because I spend a lot of time on YouTube.
Well, thank you for doing that. Thank you for contributing some tiny, tiny amount to my stock price appreciation. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. It is what I am here for. Now, at Google, you started as an individual contributor on the engineering side. Now you lead a team, which is awesome. It's new enough where I can still say congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations. And just to start off, would you mind sharing what team you're specifically a part of and what you're helping to build?
I had a friend who works for Google who, twisted my arm, strongly encouraged me to apply, and never thought I would get in. In fact, I didn't even intend to apply for an engineering role. I intended to apply for a customer-facing role. You're probably aware of this here in tech too. Google has a role called customer engineering, right? Where you're kind of half a salesperson and half tech support. And you have to have good engineering skills to do this job because your job is to like show the customer how to use the product. And that's really, you can't be incompetent at engineering and do that. But it is at its heart a sales role, right? The goal is to get the customer to buy the product, which when you're selling cloud services is really get the customer to use the product because it's all billed by usage. Right. And so in my mind, I was like, I don't think I'm cut out to be a Google engineer, but if it's combined with a salesy bit, I know I can do that. And I know I'm a good enough engineer to be an engineering salesperson. So I applied for a customer engineering role at Google. And since I was on the website at the same time, I was like, all right, let me fill out the software engineer job application as well. Well, what's the harm? It turns out if you apply for a software engineering role and a non-software engineering role, software engineering gets you first. They get dibs. So I never actually ended up even interviewing for the position I originally was going for because they were waiting for me to flunk out of the suite interview first, which I didn't, shockingly.
Okay. That's really interesting. Well, I was actually going to save this question more till the end because we must start talking about watches, otherwise people will revolt. But like, how do you stay up to speed on the ever changing tech landscape in your role?
It's hard and it's getting harder. Curiosity is a big thing. If you maintain your natural curiosity about the world, then it takes less effort to keep engaged and stay up to speed. I will say I'm worried that I'm falling behind in the AI landscape. Not that I don't understand the fundamental technologies. I think I actually have a pretty good grasp of those, but I see my colleagues doing things like prompt engineering, doing things like, dumping things into LLMs and getting good code out of them and then tweaking that code and sending it. And I have my skepticism about whether those are good and useful things to do, but they unquestionably work. And, there is a whole way of working in software engineering that is evolving that relies on using these tools to enable you to go faster that I don't really know how to do. And I need to invest some effort in figuring out how that works and getting competent at kind of the new way things are done. Even if I'm skeptical that the new way is a good way, I can't be skeptical in ignorance. I need to be skeptical from a base of actually knowing.
Well said. Well said. Yeah, and I appreciate the honesty as well. Like I think it really is an ever changing landscape, and it reaches a point where you just have to sit down, dig in, and
Yeah.
learn. Right. That's
Yeah.
awesome. Well, you have specifically kept your wrists below the screen.
I have.
It's very smart. So, what's on the wrist today? You've got me
Sure.
dying to know here.
Sure. So this is your run of the mill Omega Speedmaster Moon watch. I want to say it's a 2022 Hasselite version, solid case back. Picked it up from a fellow AWS member, and I really love it. One of the nice things about being part of a collecting group is you get the opportunity to try on things you wouldn't otherwise try on. And then, people sell things to each other. So you get opportunities to buy stuff for prices that you wouldn't otherwise have access to, and who's selling them. So, you don't have to pay a middleman to ensure that there's nothing crazy going on. And it opens up so much more opportunities to explore what you like than if you're, sitting by yourself scrolling Chrono. But yeah, I love this watch. It doesn't have a great story other than that I really like it.
Nice, nice. No, I agree with you. I can't speak more highly to our watch club. And one of my favorite memories is one of my earlier ones. We had an event at the Red Phone booth, right? It's kind of like a
Mhm.
cigar and whiskey lounge, and it was an event hosted by Analog Shift, and they specifically brought some really cool vintage watches. But members bring their watch rolls, their cases of watches, and I think up until that point, I'd maybe tried on one, maybe two Pateks ever. And I think that night I tried six, eight
Yeah.
on. It was just
Yeah.
such a treat, and that really like ignited even more of my passion for the group, other than everyone like yourself being just totally amazing. Well, that's
Did you attend
hey,
the Elanganzana
yeah.
event that the Atlanta Watch Society did?
I was there, but I can't pronounce it nearly as eloquently as you.
It takes
But
some
yes, I was there.
practice. That event to me was such a showcase of why local groups can be cool, and our group in particular is so cool. Because first of all, we were able to get this incredible brand to come in and show some really crazy stuff, right? I mean, those watches are just such a work of art in a way that, I mean, they're just absolutely killing it. And it was at a really cool venue that really fit the vibe of the brand. And the brand brought like, I want to say 8 or 9 watches. And at the Ilongazana price point, that's a lot of inventory, right? And they had security there, the whole 9 yards. And I remember one of our members, who I definitely will not name, came in and dropped his watch box. And he brought 12 Alanganzanas out of his personal collection and just dropped them onto the table. And the brand loved it because he had models in his box that they didn't have, that they wanted to show off. Right. And
Right.
it was so cool because it was like, not only is it so awesome to have this brand come out and show us this cool stuff, but even the people in the group have so much to contribute. It's just so cool. Big flex moment right
I
there.
agree. Yes, definitely. That event actually was very important for me because there was a watch of theirs that I had absolutely coveted on my wish list, and I had a chance to try it on. And I decided it was absolutely not for me, and it was removed promptly from the wish list. And that is okay too. It was the Longa Odysseus.
Yeah.
Tried it on. I thought it was the one because, like, I like a sporty watch.
Mhm.
I like one that's still pretty simple, but theirs is very functional with the big date. Just wasn't it. It was like
Okay.
Harry Potter grabbing his first wand at Ollivander's, and it was just not the right one. That was the Odysseus for me.
Yeah. And that's good. That's valuable. Saves you a lot of time.
And money.
Can I show you a cool watch?
Please.
So
Yes.
I probably should have started with this, but like, I don't speak for Google. I don't represent Google. These are my views. I also don't speak for or represent Google's watch collecting group. So Google has a watch collecting group. It's very large, and a large number, and I mean multiple thousands of people, right? And a large number of tech employees is a decent amount of purchasing power. So we get a lot of brands willing to do cool collaborations with us. And I think some of these have showed up publicly in the past. We did a collaboration with Tudor a few years ago that eventually hit the auction market. We've done collaborations with IWC. I mean, easily, I want to say 7 or 8 high-end brands that I can't remember off the top of my head, but really, really cool watches. We did a Tag Heuer that Bamford actually came in and designed for us. Just really cool stuff. Anyway, we recently did another collaboration with Tudor that I don't know if anyone has ever talked about publicly, but I think it's okay for me to. But it is a Tudor Pelagos 39, and they did a custom dial and case back engraving for us that I think is really cool. So I'll show it to you. Let's see.
Yes,
So
please.
this is the dial, and again, this webcam is not going to do a great job of picking it up,
There we go.
but
It's perfect.
yeah. And if you can see here, we've got the Google Chrome dinosaur on the dial.
Oh, I do see that. Yes.
He is loomed. There's little bubbles coming off of his mouth because it's a dive watch.
Perfect.
And then the case back
Oh, wow.
engraving is that's his name is Stan. That's Stan again.
Okay.
In a sort of aquatic environment, and it's just so cool. I mean, they were willing to take most of the dial text off, which I think is great. Makes it look so much more clean and makes room for
Yes.
stuff like putting Stan on the dial. And it's just so fun, you know.
That's
It's
special.
something unique. It's something I'll have to remember my tenure at Google, which will eventually end, and I will look back fondly on it because I have this nice piece of memorabilia, and it's just really cool. And it's awesome to have, a large enough group of like-minded people that you can approach a brand like Tudor and be like, "Can you do something cool for us?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure."
That's so cool. My dad worked at Google for about 10 years, and
Mhm.
had he been in the club, gotten one of those, maybe gifted it to me, he would have scored so many frickin' points with me.
Yeah,
But he
dad
didn't.
points.
So he didn't. And now I'm sad that it could have been, but it wasn't. But congrats. That's an awesome watch. Is it
Thank
stainless
you.
steel or titanium?
It's titanium. Yeah,
It's
so
titanium. Okay. It looked like a darker metal.
it's got the kind of brushed gray to titanium
Awesome.
look to
Awesome.
it. I really like it. I mean, another cool thing about it is this is not a watch I would have bought without, it being introduced to it in the context of it being a special thing. It looks a lot like a Submariner, and I already had a Submariner. I actually sold my Submariner to buy this because I had a hunch I would like this more, and I was right. But, it's made by Rolex, but it doesn't say Rolex, which seems like just kind of odd, but I love it. I really love it. Like, it really hit the Submariner aesthetic on the head in a way that I think modernizes it and brings it up to date without losing kind of the classic proportions and classic style.
Yeah.
Titanium is so nice in a dive watch because divers can be big and clunky and heavy if they're made in steel. But also, it's just such a utilitarian thing. I mean, the thing I love about the Pelagos, for instance, Pelagos, I don't know, it's one of the few dive watches I've ever seen that has both a micro adjust and a dive extension. It has both, right? And usually you get one or the other. And I can't imagine a scenario in which I'd actually need both, but it's just so cool that they actually did both in one watch. And I love it. It's just so neat. It's a great daily beater.
That is such a unique watch. Do you know how, I'm just curious, like how many they made for the Google team?
Yes, it was really popular. They made 600 of them. It is the largest limited edition Tudor ever made. And
That's a fun fact. Very fun
they're
fact.
making a little bit more for us because not everyone who wanted one in the group got one. So they actually were willing to do a second run for us, which I've never heard of before. Usually it's like, hey, you get as many as you get. Tudor was kind enough to be like, you know what? There's still demand. We'll make a few more. Yeah,
That's
that's
fantastic.
the magic of being a large group of watch purchasers.
Right, right. You have a large amount of power, I'd say. And, maybe, the Google AdWords rep for Tudor was like, we'll cut you a deal at your renewal.
I don't think that was the case, but who knows?
Probably not. Probably not. What's the watch in your collection that you say or that you think kind of made you really fall in love with like collecting? Or maybe
Interesting.
it's a couple watches.
I don't have it in front of me right now, but the first sort of big boy watch I bought was a Bond Seamaster 2531 automatic version of the GoldenEye watch. The GoldenEye watch was actually a quartz. It's the 2541, as I'm sure you know. I prefer automatics, so I got the automatic one.
I did not know that. I'm the worst when it comes to reference numbers, by the way.
Oh, okay. I'm not the best, but with Omega, like I feel like Omega and Patek, you really have to remember the reference numbers because the model names they refer to like a million things, right? Like, oh, I have a Seamaster. Awesome. That could be 600
Which
watches.
one?
Yeah.
There are 8 million Calatravas.
Yeah. Yeah. Which I learned recently wasn't, I think that's a pretty recent brand. Like for the longest history of the longest period of the history of that kind of dress watch, it never had that name. It was just the Patek dress watch.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. I want to say that I came up with that name in the 80s.
Okay. I won't fact check. I don't have time. So we're just gonna take your word for it. Uh,
I've spoken.
okay. Right.
But
Facts.
yeah, the Bond watch to me was sort of my entree into big biggish ticket watches, and I've loved it. It's one of these watches that I keep buying and selling over and over again. I think I've owned 3 of them now because I buy it, I love it, and then I want to buy something else, and I think, you know what, I can get another one of these really easy. So I'm going to sell it and I'll buy it again later. The problem is I end up paying more for it every time I buy another one because they keep going up in value. So I really should have just hung on to it.
Right. Right. Okay. Very cool. So in that case, what watch have you been wearing the most? Or maybe like the two you've been kind of like adding most in your rotation.
I would say the 2 I've been wearing most are probably so my Patek 3119 in yellow gold. This guy here,
There we
classic.
go.
Yeah. Uh,
Oh yeah.
so this watch is really cool. I love small, slim dress watches, anything that can slip under a cuff. My theory is like if you're only ever going to own one watch, if you're going to own 2 watches, you should have a good sports watch and a good dress watch, right? If you can only own one, find which one of those fits your personality better and buy one of those, right? And to me,
Literally going through that exercise right now with my brother-in-law who
yeah,
he wears a watch. He wants to get into a nicer watch category. And so like we literally hopped on the phone and I was like asking him these like qualifying questions, getting him down
yeah.
to where I think he might land. So we'll see what he ends up with.
Yeah. But I mean, the Calatrava is just, it's such a beautiful, elegant piece of jewelry where it's so pretty. And for people who know what it is, it makes an impression in terms of like the kind of person you are, the kind of taste that you have. But it's not big, it's not aggressive, it doesn't jump off your wrist at people's faces. And so it's sort of all things to all people, right? If it wants to be ignored, it can be, but if attention is called to it, it shines. And I really love that. I will wear it with t-shirt and shorts. Like I don't care. It's just a beautiful thing. The other watch I've been wearing a lot
I
is
agree.
this Formex.
Yeah.
So this is a Formex Essence 39. Hard to see on the camera, but it has
Yeah, it's pretty clear.
it has an Eisenkiesel dial. So this is actually the Atlanta Watch Society club watch, at least the first one. You can see the Atlanta Watch Society logo is on the back. It's hard to see with this display case
Hmm.
back, but in white there. our little club logo is on there. I love this watch because, I mean, just stylistically, right? It's sort of a simple, elegant sports watch, steel case, steel bracelet. It's very comfortable. The case suspension system thing that Formex likes to talk about, where the case is sort of spring loaded, feels like a gimmick, but paired with a steel band, which can tend to pinch in movement, having that little bit of wiggle room is just really nice, especially if you're exercising or you're picking up kids, like I do a lot, doing any sort of wrist flexion kind of movement. This one has personal meaning to me. One, because it's the club watch that my little collecting group did locally, but also it's the watch I was wearing when my daughter was born. So it has some
Mm.
positive memories associated with it there. But even beyond those things, it's just a beautiful watch. And the nice thing about Formex is I think Formex is one of those brands that sits in a really nice place in terms of value for your money, where it is a high quality piece made really well, machine finished really well. It has a beautiful, unique dial. It's got a nice solid ETA movement that, will run well and can be repaired and will probably last longer than I will. And it's not crazy expensive. So I can wear it anywhere. And I'm not worried about the cost of repairing it or, God forbid, replacing it. Like, I love my Patek, but I will not wear it, mountain biking, right? Uh,
And you shouldn't. And you shouldn't.
this I can wear
Yeah.
anywhere. And I think, Formex is almost a unique value proposition in that space, being a case and dial maker and also owning a bracelet maker and, doing so much of their work in house. I don't know what kind of margins they're making on these pieces, but they can't be that much. This is just a fantastic watch for the money, which I think is,
Yeah,
what a
I
tool
agree.
watch should be, at least ideally, right?
Yeah, it should be a watch that you don't mind if it gets banged up to hell and back. That's the point of it. But actually, I'm going to attempt to make a parallel specifically between a Patek Calatrava and Formex as a brand in general. Think with both, what actually brings them together is the fact that when they're on the wrist, when you're wearing them, they have a very understated appeal. And of course, they're both really well made in their own right. But when someone like us, who's a watch person, I mean, I don't know about you, but anytime I see a watch on someone's wrist, I'm like clocking it. I'm like,
Yeah.
what is that?
Yeah.
And most of the time, I know. And when it is a Calatrava or when it's a Formex, my reaction is the same. And my reaction is they've actually like put some real thought into
Yes.
what they are choosing for their own personal style. There's something, it goes below the surface. So I took the shot. How'd I do?
Perfect. I love that. And I do the same thing where, if I see someone wearing a watch that looks like an intentional choice, I will usually talk to them about it, right? Because people, they mostly love it, right? Like they made a choice to wear something that they think says something about themselves. And they generally like it when people notice and appreciate it. But usually when I have these conversations, they'll say something like, "You're the first person who's ever talked to me about my watch." You know, I ran into someone at work who was wearing a GMT, a Rolex GMT Master. Chatted with him about it a little bit, and he was like, "Yeah, no one's ever noticed it before. I'm glad someone did." And now I have a new friend, a new potentially useful, work connection, and I made him feel good about his form of self-expression, and that's always a win.
That's fine. That's fantastic. Well, just like Google has a watch club, the new company that I'm joining or I've joined, I will absolutely be establishing the watch club if we don't already have one. I
You
don't think we
should.
do.
You
Oh, I
should.
will. I definitely
It's
will. I think
it's a good
it's just
vibe.
so much fun.
Yeah. It's a lot of
Definitely
fun.
brings people together
Yeah.
over a common interest.
Can I
Yeah.
show you two more watches?
Yeah, please, let's do it. And then I've got
So
one more big question.
sounds good. So this is the Timex Expedition Quartz Chrono that I used to time my wife's contractions when we had our first child. And then
Practical, very practical.
yep. And then this is the Seiko 5. I don't remember the reference number, but it's like well, I replaced the case back, so I can't even read the reference number. The old case back is in my closet somewhere. But I got married wearing this watch. This was my first, maybe not my first mechanical watch, but my first nice mechanical watch. And I bought it back when you could get a Seiko 5 for $40.
That's fantastic. All right, wearing the Seiko 5 to get married. What was your first dance?
It
Or what was
was,
the song of your first dance? I know it was
it was,
choreographed and
it
probably
was A
amazing.
Thousand Years by Christina Perry, which I believe is a movie I believe that was made for one of the Twilight films.
Yeah, it was
But
for the
it's just a
Twilight
great,
film. I know
despite that,
that.
it's a
I
great song.
shouldn't, but I do. Yeah. Yeah. Honestly, those soundtracks, they made Iron and Wine popular, and that is A-okay with me.
Yeah. Not so much a fan of those movies, but a lot of art was made for those films that was really good.
I agree. I agree. Don't worry, none of this is actually gonna make it to the final cut. Or maybe it will. I don't know. I don't know. No idea. All right, last couple of questions for you.
Sure.
What, John, is the next watch that you're fiending after? What's on the mind?
It's probably a Daytona. I've been telling myself I'm going to get one for years now. I turned 35 earlier this year, and the plan was, as a buy a birthday gift to myself, that's going to be a Daytona. I had an AD lined up to sell me one, and basically just spoke with my wife, and I was like, "Look, I don't think the time is right. I'm going to pass on this one." I had just bought the Patek, and so I was like, I've been spendy lately. I'm just gonna hold my fire for a little bit. But I've owned a Daytona before. I loved it. I wore it all the time. So, I know I'm not gonna regret it. And so I think that's my next watch purchase. So I'm gonna go get a Daytona. I will probably get a white dial two-tone. Not sure of which era yet. I like the Zenith ones. I also like the newer ones, but yeah, probably a white dial two-tone. I just really like the white dials. I have a nice black dial chronograph. Don't feel the need to have another. And to me, the fact that the two-tone Daytona is less desired than the all steel one is criminal. It's it's such a shame, especially if you're buying secondhand on the gray market. Like, a 15 to $22,000 two-tone Daytona versus a 25 to, $30,000 steel one. It's like, yes, I will accept a $10,000 discount in return for you putting gold on my watch. Yes, that is a deal I will take.
Definitely. Definitely. Well, you know, there's a lot of watches that I love and many that I own that, normal people do not want. And that is A-okay
Yeah.
by me.
Yeah. And I
Totally
think,
fine by me.
two-tone has just grown on me over the years. It was never a look that really appealed to me, but it is a classic Rolex aesthetic, right? And as I get older and I've got more pieces of metal on me that I don't care to always coordinate, a two-tone piece can pull together, a gray metal wedding band and a gold buckle belt, for instance, in a way that is just very convenient for, I don't want to say lazy dressing, but less fastidious dressing.
I believe the technical term is grandpa style.
Yes, yes, absolutely.
That's awesome. I'm not a huge two-tone fan for me personally,
Mhm.
but obviously we have a lot of mutual friends who rock two-tone all the time. I'm always a little jealous that they can pull it off. I just don't think I can. Maybe
It's
it'll
a very
change,
it's a
but
very 80s vibe, right? Like
I would agree.
the two-tone date just, I feel, is like the iconic watch of the 80s, right? And so I think people our age and younger associate two-tone, especially two-tone Rolexes, with just an older generation. The 80s are back though.
Because of the tariffs or something else.
No, I mean fashion wise, right?
Oh, okay. Got it. Got it.
The fashion super cycle is moving to the 70s right now. It's going to hit the 80s
Yeah.
next.
Kendrick, bell bottoms, just makes
Yep.
sense.
Yeah.
Just makes
But
sense.
and you see it in a lot of pop culture, right? Stranger Things, the he's is just old enough to be cool now.
Right. Right. Which terrifies anyone who like was, cognizant in the 80s.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think we're starting to see, these throwback fashion and culture start to be cool again in, in the broader pop culture. And that terrifies me because the 90s were not cool. I was there. It wasn't cool.
I'm not even going to comment on that one. Anyways, John, my last question for you is going back to just the professional side of things. I've been really curious to ask you this question, but
Sure.
what advice would you give to an individual contributor engineer who wants to move into their first engineering leader role? Like, what would you tell
Okay.
them?
That's a really good question. When you move from being an IC to being, but there's a few kinds of leadership, right? So you can be a leader in a tech environment without being a manager. And some of the best jobs in tech, in my opinion, are these kind of roles, right? This is the role I first had when I joined Google. Senior engineer on a team, in charge of how we're doing what we're doing, and sometimes in charge of what we're doing, but not in charge of HR, right? Not in charge of expectation setting and performance management and any of those things. You can be a leader without climbing the ladder of reports to reports to reports, right? And sometimes that's better. And it's definitely usually more fun. So, keep in mind that leadership has a few different flavors and find the one that works best for you, right? If you do move into a role where you're managing people and you're suddenly responsible for other people's careers, just bear in mind that it is a very different job than the one you've been doing, right? This is not a promotion. This is you have changed jobs, right?
Completely different job.
You, I believe that to be a competent engineering manager, you need to be a competent engineer, but being a competent engineer is in no way sufficient to be a good engineering manager. You need to have a whole other skill set built on top of or alongside of that, however you conceptualize it, because you now have an entirely different job of which engineering skill is maybe a third, right? It's an essential third, but most of the work is other things. You are now in the business of people, cultivating people, inspiring people, guiding people, negotiating with people. You are in an entirely different job now, and treat it as a new job with a new skill that you need to learn, not as just an extension of being a good engineer, right?
Very well said. I agree with you fully on that point. Well, John, thank you because we've gone grossly over the time that we
Yeah, we have,
allotted
haven't we?
for
Of
this. So it happens on Watch the Tech. So thank you so much for spending the time with
course.
us. Thank you also to everyone who's going to be listening to this. If you liked it, please like and subscribe. And with that, we will end the episode.